My friends, it's been a couple of days since I've worked on the last Hurrah guitar, partly because there was a weekend in there, and partly because I'm about ready to try the Rosette on this. Caleb, the apprentice, spent some time on the computer working out the details for this, and did a good job, I think. But you know, you just can't trust an apprentice. They might have pulled an April Fool's joke on you or something. So I'm gonna print all this out before I go cutting the hole in this, because once I cut the hole in this, I'm committed. So we'll see how this goes. You all made a real good suggestion about staining the backside, and so I did that. And this is going to be critical in this one, and I'll show you why here in just a few minutes, because it's directional on this Rosette. And yeah, that was a good idea. I'm surprised I hadn't thought of that. You know, when you suggest a good idea, I'm not too proud to accept it. And you know, I think that was a very good idea. So the only thing, I was afraid to do it, to dye the back of it with my leather dye though, because that stuff is so penetrating, I was afraid it would go through this. So I used Minwax dark walnut, and you can see the yellow didn't take all that well, but it did take. I can tell one side from the other at least. And so now we'll go over to laser cutter and see what kind of design old Caleb cooked up for me. I'm going to mark the spot where I want to place the wood, and we'll try that right now. Okay, you can barely, probably can't even see it. I can barely see it with my eyes here. I'll put the dark side down. Yeah, I better double check my height here. I forgot to check it with the piece in there. Okay, so we'll cut the dark one first. We'll turn this up. I think it's going all the way through. It's pretty much a guess on whether you're choosing the right amount of power or not. Every piece of wood is different. The different colors of the different wood make a difference. You know, there's just a lot of factors. I would say it's right on the edge of cutting all the way through. If it's not, hard to tell. I think they're falling through, so therefore I think it's going to work. I believe that cut them all out. So now the trick is picking it up without losing them all. From that. Yeah, they fell through the paper too. Well, no point in you watching me pick all that up. I'll show you here in a minute what it looks like. Okay, we're going to cut out the second one now. This will be the yellow one. In general, it's better to use the minimal amount of power you can, because it burns the edges less and makes the inlay tighter. So I turned it down about a half a point. We had it at 14. We turned it down to 13.5. Still seems to be cutting all the way through. And I figured it would take less on this lighter color wood, although the yellow is very dense. This is a very dense wood, this Osage orange. I'm getting ready to test the Chevron pieces going into the Rosette, and I just have a piece of plywood here. I've set this just slightly smaller than what I think the outside diameter should be, to just do a test first, to just see how big the circle is going to be, because it's very difficult to set it precisely. Okay, I need the outside edge of this to be about 122 point like 2.3, but that's, we'll see here. I got it on 0. Let me double check the 0 here, and I'll set it on millimeters. And we need it to be about 122.23. There's 122.22, and even though I thought I made it smaller, it's bigger than what I need. Isn't that weird? Maybe I moved it the wrong way. I thought I moved it the right way. Moved it in. That would have made it smaller, I would have thought. Isn't that weird? Oh well, that's why we do tests. Yeah, that's weird. Have to try that again. Alright, I'm changing my tactic a little bit. I'm going to route the insides of the circle first, or try to. And if I don't get it right, I don't much care, but I want to then keep going out till I get the outside right. That way I can kind of sneak up on it and make sure I got the outside right. And then I'll route it in the guitar, assuming that this all works well. But anyway, here we go. Try to measure the inside of the circle now. I'm getting 107.5, which it should have been like 110, so I'm smaller than what I should be. That's okay. It's only 2.5 thousandths too small. I'm going to sneak up, keep moving it out and sneak up on the outside dimension, and we'll see, and then we'll stop and see if we can inlay this in here and see how it looks. Alright, I'm trying to widen the hole a little bit, so still got a ways to go according to that. Let's check a piece just to get a sanity check here on how much wider it needs to be, quite a bit. And I can take and mark this instead of just relying on all these measurements. I can at least have a kind of a sanity check here by putting this here and marking it. So I don't want to go past the end. I don't want to go past the inside of that mark right there as I redo this. Okay, this will be our third trip around it. We'll see how this goes. To see if it fits in there yet. Nope, not yet. So we do need to go out a little bit more to that pencil mark. Question is, I'm not just sure how much more. Just by eyeball, it looks like about 40 thousandths. So that's what I'll go. I'll set it for 40 thousandths first, and we'll see if we are. I'm sorry, 0.40 millimeters, not 40 thousandths in this case. It's 0.40 millimeters. So, can we be that accurate? We'll see. Okay, this should be the final cut, I hope. We'll do a little test section first before going all the way around it and see what it looks like. Well, quite honestly, it looks like it went a little more than I was planning on, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see and put the piece in here. That's pretty darn good. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and go with that and inlay the parts in this as a test, and we'll see how it works, and that'll give me some idea whether or not the circle's the right size. Well, this is another one of those Chinese jigsaw puzzles, and it's going together pretty well. But occasionally there's one that just won't go in there. Like for instance, this one here, I've tried a couple of times. Other yellow ones go in, that one doesn't go in. It's either that or the apprentice has played a joke on me and made one little off size, you know, just as could be grounds for dismissal, don't you think? That this one doesn't go in there? I don't know. Things I have to deal with. Well, I did a couple of more sanity checks, is what I call them, to make sure the things were going the way I wanted. And I double checked the size of the actual sound hole, and it wasn't as big as I wanted. So I'm moving this out now some more, and we'll do some more checking here. And I think this will work, but anyway, we have to do it. I'm still not exactly sure about this, to be perfectly honest with you. I think I may have to do some more work off camera here. The hole has to be 4 inches, so 2 inches from there would be here, and 2 inches from there, and so that's the hole. But then you got to have 100,000ths of an inch, and then you put a strip of inlay, and then another 100,000ths of an inch, and this stuff. And it ain't working out that way. So I don't know what the problem is. Something got screwed up in the translation or something. The conversion from metric to thousandths or something. Something got screwed up. Because this ain't gonna fit. It's just not gonna fit, period. Well, as you may have noticed in the previous video clips, I was having trouble making this work in the real world. It was sort of working with what we had, but it really wasn't coming out to the real life, real world size. And the bottom line is, it was just simply a math problem that we just didn't think about. We had our numbers written down here, but the problem was we didn't double them. And we needed to have doubled them the first time we were thinking about this, because I was just thinking of one side of the hole, I guess. Anyway, long story short, I think we got it figured out, and we think we know how to fix it. Caleb's already fixed it in the program and printed out new pieces for me here. So all I need to do is route out a hole that should fit that, and then test it again and see if it really did work. So here we go. That should be very close to the outside hole dimensions. Now I'll clean that up. Well, you can see the color of the board has changed. I just flipped it over, and this side was painted. I have got it pretty close to the outside parameter that we want, and I'm trying to work on the inside now and get it close. The outside has to be just a tiny bit taken off of it yet. And so I want to get the inside real close first and then do that. That way I'll know this is real world right size. I'm making this more complicated than it needs to be, I can tell. But anyway, we'll get it figured out. One of the other complicating factors that was giving me trouble was that all drill bits are not created equal. This is an old drill bit that's sticking in here that I'm using for my pivot pin, and it's a 5/32. Well, I went and used a 5/32 to drill these holes, but as you can see, there's a hole here, and I've got it marked out, and there's a hole here that I have marked out. And that is because those holes are too big, even though I drilled them with a 5/32. I found a different set of drill bits, drilled it with a 5/32, and now the hole is perfectly tight. Before, it wasn't tight. It was moving quite a bit, actually. And when you're down to this kind of precision, where you're measuring in thousandths, any kind of movement is several thousandths of an inch. And it was more than several thousandths, actually. It was probably moving about 5 thousandths. That's about how big the bit was oversized. It was probably about 5 thousandths oversized. That's really not good when you're trying to be this precise. So anyway, bottom line is, got that little hurdle fixed too, and now we're getting much closer to the measurements that we need here, although we're not quite there yet. So I'll get this worked out, and then I'll show you what it looks like as I start inlaying these here and we do our final little test. I think we're getting close to the final anyway. After entirely too many problems, I think I am now ready to say that this is going to work. And I say that, and I haven't actually done the real world measurement on it yet, which would be to lay a ruler across here, and you know, so it looks much better already, though, I can tell. So right that's kind of like dead center. Here's my sound hole, and halfway between there is about here, and that's enough room to get a piece in. So I think real world this is going to work. Is it perfect? Maybe not, but it's close enough to perfect for my book. So I think we've got it whipped finally. Now it's just a question of getting all these inlaid, and I don't know that I'm going to inlay all of these in this test piece, but I'm going to inlay a number of them, just because I can, I guess, and just to satisfy myself that it is going to make a decent looking circle. It looks like it's going to work okay. I wonder if we should have enough pieces, I think.
Mm-hmm. Slightly more.
See, now here's one that doesn't fit again. At least it doesn't seem to. Yeah, this one doesn't seem to fit. There, I could probably force it.
See, now I did this one different. This is the same piece, just copied 40 times.
Yeah, there you go.
So it doesn't make much sense that it doesn't fit.
I don't know why that is so weird. It's like, there's one piece that piece doesn't seem to fit for some reason. And maybe it's the slot, but the slot's really accurate now. That one's a little tight. Okay, let's try another one. That one I can pretty sure get in there if I had to. A little tight though. So maybe it's the slot. Maybe the slot's actually not as accurate as I think it is. It seemed like it was really cutting accurate. I don't know. I've had nothing but trouble with this one. That's 241.5, and what did we say it was supposed to be? 244?
Yeah, 244, 245, somewhere in there.
241. It's pretty accurate though. 240. So I mean, like we're only 1/1000th of an inch off anywhere. Here's 242. 243. This is 243 right there. 241.5. 242, 242. It's so close. I mean, we're talking 1/1000th of an inch. You know, people think that's an awful lot, but when you stop and measure that, that is so small. It's like, it's almost impossible to really measure it. Yeah, I don't know. That one fits, but it's tight again. I don't know. Just somebody doesn't want me to do this here, I think. There's something going on. So it must be the slot is just a hair tighter in this area. But some of these don't fit nearly as well as some of the other ones do. A good tight fit is what you want anyway, and I'm sure I could force that in there. And then if it was the guitar, I'd probably force it in there. The guitar is going to be softer wood too, so it would force easier. But I don't know. And see, like this one here, it doesn't seem to want to go in there, but it's I mean, like just a hair from going. It would go if I forced it, there's no question. I could probably scrape the end of it and get it to go even. It's that close. It's really close. I'm sure I could force it in there. There I just did with my finger. But anyway, it looks good enough. I think it's going to work. So now that I have it set for the outside perimeter, I'm going to go ahead and drill the outside perimeter on the guitar, or route the outside perimeter, and we'll sneak up on the inside then until we get it to the right size. Here we go. Well, you can see that I have the hole drilled and it does fit absolutely tight. There's no play at all, which is exactly what I wanted. You know, I'm just going to double check that these are tight. I'm pretty sure they're real tight, but yeah, I just don't want any screw ups here at the last second. And this is set for the outside perimeter. So we should be able to drill the outside perimeter of this herringbone pattern right now. Okay, the outside perimeter has been drilled. Now we just need to do the inside sneak up routine until we get to the right width. So I'll adjust this off camera and we'll route the next hole. Okay, I've got it adjusted for the second pass. I have it set for my best guess at the approximate width for the final pass on the inside here. And so I'm going to do it up here at the fretboard end and do a little test. And I already can tell I probably don't have it enough. I probably am not going to be able to fit this in there yet. It's real close, but it's not going to go. So I'm going to have to adjust it a little bit more to cut just a tiny, tiny amount more. So I'll adjust it again off camera and then I'll show you the final pass, I hope. Okay, I've adjusted it again. I'm going to try another little test here. That cut off quite a bit more, so I think it'll fit this time. Hope it's not too loose. That might be a hair too loose, actually. Let me check a few different pieces just to make sure. Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it would look all right. You'd fill that with no problem, but I think I'm going to try to move it back just a hair. And that's really hard to do because I only took a hair more off, so now I got to split a hair. Okay, I believe I have it set right. So I'm going to go around it once here and we'll double test it here, but I think it's okay. Okay, so let's just see if the pieces will fit in here. Actually, they're a tiny bit tight, it looks like again. That's better than loose. I may have to open it up just a hair more. Up here, they fit, I'm pretty sure. But I tightened it up just a little bit. And it may still be just a hair too tight. I could probably force them in, but I would prefer they just fit just perfectly. So I'm going to go around it again and see if that just going around it will make a difference, but if not, I may have to force it in just a little bit more. I kind of kept pushing toward the center as I went around it that time, hoping that that might just make the slight difference. But it probably won't. It probably won't make enough difference. No, I don't think it's going to. Well, it goes there, it fits. So maybe it will. It's so close to fitting. It's really close. It's funny why it fits in some places. It fits there. I think I'm going to clean that up with my knife, real sharp X-Acto blade around there. There's fuzzies and stuff, and maybe that's the problem. But it looks like it fits in some places and it doesn't in others. You know, it's routed as precisely as you can route it. So it's just thousands of inches is all we're talking here. This dotted line that's coming through there is the sun is directly coming through there, and the shade has got these dots on here, so I apologize for that, but you know, it is what it is, as I say. I just fitted this first yellow one in here on the center line, and kind of have it splitting the center line, and then the brown one will split that. It was a tight fit. That's why I have the sandpaper here. I figure if I have a tight fit, I can always just sand it slightly on the edges. And like this, just drag it across there, and it should probably be enough to make it fit. It's that close. Maybe just the outside of the other one, just a hair. Reason I don't mind doing this sanding is because it's burnt on those edges anyway, and that'll get rid of that burn. Make a little cleaner inlay, I think. So I think it's going to work just fine. I could probably force them in there the way they are, but I prefer that they just fit on their own. So you can see what I'm doing there. I've got a lot more of that to do, and when I get a little further along, I'll show you some progress. Well, there's a few minutes progress. You can see it's starting to look pretty good, I think. It's going to be a nice looking design. It's just going to take a little bit of while to get it in there, so that's a few minutes worth of work, and I've got a few more minutes to go. Well, there's a few more minutes progress. Really starting to look pretty. We're almost halfway around it. It takes a little more time to do this than you might think. Just so you know, like if they don't fit, I'm sanding the little edges on them a little bit. Some of them fit okay, some of them don't. Like that one fit okay. And then I'm pulling up real tight. And if you're wondering why I'm not using glue, I'm going to just do the CA glue thing, because the CA glue will just run down in there. These little pores and things are plenty big for the CA glue to run down in and glue this. I'm not at all concerned about the glue. In fact, I don't want to get the glue in there and get me all messed up, because the glue will cause the wood to swell and all kinds of issues. But the CA glue shouldn't cause those issues, because it's not water-based like the Tight Bond or other glues are. And it feels nice and smooth too. If anything, it's like maybe 1/1000th of an inch proud of the surface, so it's just about perfect. It's as close to perfect as you can get. So I told Caleb I would go ahead and keep him for one more day. You know, Melissa said, well, we'll keep him for another year, you know, and I said, no, let's not go that far. Let's take it a day at a time. And I don't want to overcommit or anything, you know. This one's got a little bit of a gap right here, so I'm going to sand just a little bit off this corner, and that way it might fit a little tighter. It's probably a little bit better. So I'm going to take a little more off of this edge. And maybe just a hair off of this one corner here. I think that'll make it fit a little bit better. Yep, that's better. You know, if you can see down in there, then you got a problem. I don't want to be able to see down in there, and I could see down in there on that one. But now it looks good. So, you know, this is a lot of fine detail work here is really what it boils down to. I mean, even if you didn't do that little extra detail, very few people would notice it, but it just makes it look a little bit better when you do that. Well, I'm going to keep working on that and show you some more in a little bit. Well, there you go, my friends. It did work out. It was questionable there with my apprentice, though, because we were short about 4 pieces up here, 5 pieces. And he quickly made some more, so I'll keep him until tomorrow. So we're doing good now. And I had to shorten the one little piece to make it fit at the end. But otherwise, everything's perfect. And of course, this whole end up here will be under the fretboard. That's why I started down here and worked around. And that's a very good tip for you. Anytime you're doing a handmade rosette, always start at the opposite end and work up to the where the fretboard goes. That way you know this is going to look right. You don't want to start up here and have this come out wrong. Anyway, that worked out beautifully. That's a very pretty rosette. And I am now going to apply the CA glue before something happens and this gets bumped and it falls all over the place. This is very thin CA glue. It should run down in there theoretically. Of course, I've got the joint so tight. It's going down in there. I can see it now. I was beginning to worry there for a minute. That will burn your eyeballs right out of your socket. Man, that stuff burns. Any place you got too much, just take the tip of your towel and it'll suck it right back up. That should be really nice. Your damp breath will help it cure quicker without turning yellow or turning white. Once it starts curing like that, you can spritz it with the accelerator and it won't be a problem. It'll just go ahead and cure. I'm too impatient to just wait. That really turned out nice. Now I know it's there permanently. Now we'll sand this off good and we'll put the other rings around there. I wanted to get this one in place, get it locked down before I put the other rings in because I just wanted to be confident that I would get the other rings spaced correctly to this one. So that really looks nice. It looks very colorful and yet it's all natural color. There's no color added there. Well, it's the next day and I'm looking at this, ring here and I'm thinking this is really nice. And I really like it. I like the way it looks. But I'm thinking that I might need to, make a special purfling to go around it. I've got black, white, black, but that doesn't really go with it. So I think I may make, or try to make, a purfling brown, yellow, brown, and put that on both sides, and that would go with it much better. So anyway, we're going to see about that. But first, I have something much more important. Shoe repair. Yes, as degrading as it is to step down from my luthier chair or throne, I have to do just like you do, and I have to fix my shoes. Most of you probably are not so cheap that you would fix them. You would probably just throw them away and get another pair. But not me. I'm cheap. Now I've discovered that if you use the silicone caulk, I've tried all kinds of glues on this and I really haven't had one that's really worked. This works the best. I'm not saying this is 100%. It's not, but it works the best, mainly because it's flexible. I have a lot of my grandkids, they bring me their shoes all the time. And I glue them back with this, and I said, well, did it hold? Oh, yeah, it held just fine. I'm thinking, well, if it holds on a kid's shoe, maybe it'll work on my shoe. I've never had anything work on my own shoes, to be perfectly honest with you, so I'm not expecting this to work. But my grandkid says it works, so I'm going to give it a shot. All right, let's first off and see if my tape over the end of this allowed this to work, or did it dry out. It always dries out a little bit. I always put a little pressure on it and start pulling on this, and it, oops, too much pressure. That one didn't work. Okay, well, not to let that caulk go to waste either, no point in it. I'll just put that caulk right there. And I'll clean up and be back in a moment. There appears to be enough of the silicone caulk in there for the purposes, and I'll wipe off the excess and make just as big a mess with this as I possibly can, because that's part of the goal. I've got a block of wood here that I'm going to sit down on the flat part, I hope, and another block to raise up to the height of this, and then I will take a clamp like this and put a little bit of pressure on it, and let that set for, you know, 24 hours, because it does take a while for that kind of glue to really harden up and cure. If I don't use the word cure, people get all over me in my videos, because this is an English class, remember. But anyway, there you go. We'll let that set aside, and hopefully I'll let you know somewhere down the road if the shoe repair worked. One way you can tell if your CA glue penetrated down into all these parts or not is to see if the parts are still there after sanding and vacuuming up the sawdust. So let's see. Well, success. All the parts are still there. Feels pretty smooth. You know, I haven't cleaned up the top yet. There's glue squeeze out and everything else on the top right now. But it's looking pretty good. We'll do a little more sanding, because I think it's still just a tiny bit proud. I want this real smooth before I do the next inlay jobs. People get on me all the time because I don't use sanding blocks, but this is a case where a sanding block is an absolute necessity. Yeah, you can't really feel it now. That's pretty good. It's not. Now, I will be honest and tell you that there does seem to be some tiny little cracks around there, which should be expected when you put that many pieces in there. I'm concerned about how the finish is going to take in that area, because it's going to suck down in there. So I may go back over this with some more CA glue and try to fill all of that in. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. But that is a concern down the road. I mentioned I might want to put a brown, yellow, brown. Well, so I looked through the stuff that my good buddy John Manura of AccuSlice sent to me, and he took care of my thoughts already. He's got some brown, yellow, brown here, and he's got two varieties. One is looks like a 5-piece, 3 pieces of brown, 2 pieces of yellow, and he's got a 3-piece here, 2 pieces of brown, 1 piece of yellow. I'm trying to decide, do I want 1 piece on the inside and 1 piece on the outside? That's one option. Or the 5-piece on the inside and outside, that's another option. And yet another option would be perhaps to put the 1 piece on the inside and the 5-piece on the outside, or the 3-piece on the inside and the 5-piece on the outside. I think I said that wrong. But anyway, so the point is I could mix them up if I wanted to. And I'm really not 100% sure what I want yet. It kind of looks okay to do that, but I kind of think I prefer the symmetry of having them both the same. I'm not sure I do though. I'm going to try to figure out how that's going to look in both situations, or all 3 situations, that is, and make a decision here. I know you're screaming at the screen with your choice, but unfortunately your choice is going to be about 2 or 3 weeks late, probably, maybe a month late even. Depends on when this video gets out. Okay, like if I go with the little one in the middle and the big one on the outside, you know, kind of like, man, you know, it kind of reminds me of, you know, the planets, you know, it's like Saturn's rings, you know, you know, how you interpret this, you know. On the other hand, every direction I go, it looks okay to me. You know, I could go off on you and become that artist guy and try to find some deeper interpretation. But the bottom line is, it doesn't seem to matter which way I go, it's going to look okay. I'm just trying to figure out which way would look the best. And I'm not sure I can figure that out. I'm really leaning towards the 3-piece on the inside and the 5-piece on the outside. That's what I'm leaning toward. I think, for one thing, it just kind of mixes it up a little bit. I think it provides some kind of symmetry. It goes from little, you know, from the inside of the hole, you're spreading outwards, and I think that looks kind of cool. I don't know. I'm just gonna go for it, see what happens. I think in an effort to help make up my mind on how I want to go with the look, I'm gonna go ahead and route, you know, halfway through here where the sound hole goes. That'll give me a visual on how big the sound hole is and everything. Anyway, that's what I'm gonna do right now. Something went wrong here. What the heck happened? Fortunately, it went wrong the right way. Whew. What a pain in the butt. I thought I had that tightened down, but obviously I didn't. Thank God it went the right way. Holy mackerel. Okay, well, you saw on camera I made a big screw up there, and I did not have this tightened down. I thought I did, but I didn't. And the router moved on me, but fortunately it moved inward, so no real harm done. But only by sheer chance and luck. I say I don't get lucky like that, but I got lucky that time, and that's a black and white fact. All right. So let's tighten this down this time and do it the right way. I have a little mark there. If you're wondering how I know where to tighten it down, I have a little mark on this side here. No, it didn't slip. I just forgot to tighten it. I thought I did. I tightened it down hand tight, but I didn't tighten it down with the wrench. Well, not as pretty as I was expecting because of my screw up, but at least it did make a nice round circle, and I think it's fine. I don't think there's any damage done at all, fortunately. Let me clean that up. Well, one issue I'm going to have, one of the reasons I did that was I could lay this, you know, purfling in here a little bit. I can tell you that this purfling is a little thinner than the bit that I presently have in there. I'm going to look and see if I have a bit that will cut better with this particular purfling. And because this would be a little sloppy. I don't know if you can tell here, but it wiggles quite a bit actually. That groove, let me see if I can give an accurate measurement on the groove thickness. It's going to be a little tough because it's very tiny. It's in the 60 thousandths range, 62, 64 thousandths, that's the groove. And this is only 48 thousandths. So yeah, it's, 12 thousandths or so play there. And that's too much. 1 or 2 thousandths play would be fine, but having 12 thousandths play, that's just would be too loose of an inlay. Now keep in mind, that's just the sound hole. The inlay will actually be inside of that, about halfway between the sound hole and this other ring that we have there. So I'll have to find a different bit, and I'll go on that search right now. Alright, I've got the test board back out here. I got a new bit in this, and I'm going to just route a slot to see how the purfling fits in this slot. That should be adequate for the test anyway. And oh yeah, fits right down in there, and it's really nice. There's almost like no play. I mean, there's a teeny tiny bit of play, but if you don't have a tiny bit of play, you'll have problems anyway. Yeah, that's a real good fit. That's almost perfect, I'd say. So I'm good with that. Now my thing is, I've got to find a halfway point between the 2 points I already have here on the guitar. Of course, I'll do that up here at the test area. This should fall into the groove that's already there, and it does. I'm going to think on this, try to do it mathematically so I get it just right. I did a little math on this, and it appears to have worked. I measured from the inside edge of the sound hole to the inside edge of the ring, deducted the width of the bit and divided it in half, and that gave me the inside edge of the bit, and then I was able to use that from both edges, and marked it with my calipers. It put the bit right dead center, it looks like. That explanation probably doesn't make any sense to you, but bottom line is, it does look right to me, and if it looks right, as DeResta says, if it looks straight, it is straight. So I say if it looks right, it is right. So here we go. And that's just my test to see if it still looks right. And I'd say it looks pretty good. If I'm being truthful, I'd say I might be just a fuzz closer to the hole than I am to the binding. But I mean, like just a hair, not much difference. It's really, really close. I mean, when I measure it with the calipers, it pretty much shows the same distance. I guess I'm just going to go with that. I probably couldn't get it much closer if I tried anyway. And I think once I get the inlay in there, then round the sound hole off, it'll be fine. Okay, so here we go. Okay, that went good. There's a lot of little fuzzies on this, and I'm gonna take a little time and clean all that up before I try to bend the inlay and put it in there. We're over here at the side bender, and I'm going to try to bend this purfling that John Manura made. And I will wet it down with some water. I'm going to start soaking that a little bit. And the temperature is only up to about 375 on the Fahrenheit scale there. And I have it set to go to 430. But I think that's probably enough to get started. Takes a little while to convince this wood to change shape. You see it maybe bent just a tiny bit there, but it doesn't do anything quick. Typically I use the aluminum wrapped around it, but this stuff is so tiny, even that's a little awkward, so I'm trying to do it without the aluminum. But it may or may not work. Something has gone haywire in my readout on my heater here. I've never seen it do that before. It's gone way up to high numbers and it's flashing ORAL, it looks like, which is kind of crazy. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm sure there's some kind of error going on. It's the first time it's ever done that, and I've been using this for a couple of years now. Always something. It still seems hot, so till I see some smoke, I'm going to keep going. Well, it went back to normal now, except that it's lower temperature than it was. It's down to 355. I don't know. It's definitely acting funky. Well, if that video footage turned out, you saw me bending this over on the bending iron. And I've kind of cut it to an approximate length. I'm going to start on this side and come back around. I'm going to go ahead and just put it in there again and then CA glue it in place, I think. Partly because it fits so tight, I'm afraid if I get the other glue in there, I might have trouble getting it down in there. Might swell it up. Anyway, there's a million ways to do everything, and this is the way I'm choosing to do it. Okay, it's in there and it's pressed in place, and it looks really nice. It's standing up quite proud of the surface right at the moment. But now I think I can take the CA glue and put it in there. And I don't think it'll be a problem. I'm not going to worry about getting the CA glue around too much. Like I said, I'm going to probably put the CA glue back on this anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and just spread it over this other band to the herringbone, because I definitely want the herringbone to be sealed, because I know the finish is going to sink down in there a lot. This is the super thin CA glue, so it penetrates really well. I'm going to take this little spreader and spread the CA glue around on top here, because that'll help get it down in the herringbone a little better. I think that's pretty good. So now we have the inside ring, and that looks really nice. And now that I've got the inlay in place, the CA glue is dry, I am going to take the finger plane and start knocking it down. But stop just shy of the top of the guitar. It's quite tall. It only takes a minute to knock it down with the finger plane though. Well, the card filled up on the camera there, but I finished planing this off with the little finger plane. Still a little bit proud in a place or two, but I think it's good enough. And now, if I can find the bit of sandpaper, and it appears to have escaped, so I don't know where it went. So I'll have to make a new piece. So I'll do a lot of this sanding. I'll do most of that off camera to get this all leveled back out and get rid of this extra CA glue. Hopefully that sealed up the herringbone. And I'll show you what it looks like once I get her cleaned up. Well, there's what she looks like all cleaned up. I'm pretty happy with that. Now you have to ignore the little mistake boo-boos on the inside here. They don't amount to anything. That sound hole will be right inside of there, as you can see here. And then you got your purfling, and then you got your herringbone. And now the question is, what purfling do I put on the outside?